Joy News Prime.
It's the final day of mourning for the scores who perished in the flood and fire disaster that struck Accra. Coming up on Joy News Prime, memorial service held for those who died in last week's flood and fire disaster. We hear 3 survivors' accounts. First, the reconstruction of Kelvin's encounter with death and the mother whose choice between flood and fire had deadly consequences. Security analyst wants all those whose actions or inactions caused a tragedy severely punished to serve as a deterrent and to avert a recurrence. Meanwhile, hospitals treating victims of the tragedy say they are yet to receive funds earmarked for them. And Ebola vaccine trials in the Volta region suspended over public concerns about safety. We also have business, sports and international news coming up in the next 60 minutes. To stay tuned. This bulletin is also available across Europe on ABN television. As the state continues to mourn the over 150 people who lost their lives, we bring you a report of a survivor who says he was washed off the pavement of the restaurant he was taking refuge. Here's the story of Reverend.
We are standing very close to the disaster point where the fire actually burnt an entire filling station, the Goil filling station, and many people lost their lives. Reverend Konua is actually telling his story of how he was able to survive both the fire and the flooding. He said he was washed off from the restaurant pavement. Well, Honest Chef Restaurant is where the ABC cloth, orange and blue cloth, is hanging with the ceiling hanging off. That is actually the very point where he was washed away. From how he tells the story, he was washed off the pavement and he takes us through his audio.
As we looked on, water was gushing out so strongly from somewhere we never thought into the restaurant. And because there was no outing, the place was also filled up. So finally I had to abandon the place.
How many workers were at work at that particular time when this was happening?
Yeah, I was 1, then 4. 2 gentlemen, 2 ladies. And so at the restaurant where I was sitting, I sat on a table like this, a height like this. Then finally the water was all over me, so I had to walk in the water out, which I did, and then I came up to the pavement.
All this while, where were the workers?
We all came back. No, we all came out to the pavement. As I was over there, people from Accra had come to take shelter, and they were all on top of the counter where we serve our customers. They were sitting there. We were just allowing that so that the rains could subside, and then we could do. And they were there all till 10 o'clock because the rains were not subsiding. Now, the next thing that we realized happened was nobody knew how it occurred. But the supervisor I was standing with, his name is Sammy.
The filling station supervisor?
The restaurant supervisor. He said, Rev, don't you feel the petrol in the water? I said, yes, I'm feeling it, but what can I do? He said, I'm also feeling it too. So, but nowhere to go. So we were out there on the pavement. Then the next gentleman I was talking about, because there were 2, had climbed up to the roof to save his life, I don't know, but he was up at the roof of the restaurant. Then all of a sudden I saw him brushed and came right down in front of me on the pavement. Then he told me, I have seen fire coming from the market side, so we should run for our lives. That was when my heart beat. So he didn't finish saying that to me, but he was able to drop down in front of me, and then the water splashed all over me. Then he said, it's fire. By the time he finished speaking, there was fire all on top of the water because of the petrol over there. So we were all scattered, including those who had come to take shelter. We all were scattered by the appearance of the fire. So I ran up a bit, but what I was going to hold on to had caught fire. And so the quickest thought that came to me was to go down into the water, so that I wouldn't find some burns on my body. So when I went into the water with that urgency, I lost balance in the water, and so I was flushed by the water. So the rescue came not from me, but from, and I'm saying this because that was what I saw, that the flood had pushed an LT VW trotro down somewhere in a gutter. And on one side where you could see the two ties, on top there. So at that moment, I was able to get onto the tie. I mean the tie of the LT. And that was where I hanged the rest.
Now, one of the most iconic pictures taken in the flood and fire disaster is what you see behind me now. Now, the mother of this baby had to make the tough decision when it came to keeping her baby safe. Should she face the raging inferno or brave the churning floodwaters? She chose the water for her baby with deadly consequences. Now they tracked down the mother, and she tells us her story.
It's been a long day without you, my friend, and I'll tell you all about it when I see you again. We've come a long way.
Exactly a week today, for most people, what started as a normal day, for others ended up as the worst day of their life or the Black Wednesday of their lives. One of them is Mavis. This young lady lost her baby in her bid to save the baby's life, her 2-year-old daughter. Mavis is here with me and she'll be sharing her story. Mavis, Catherine, tell us how it happened.
This whole place flooded last Wednesday when it rained. We decided to seek refuge on the overpass. We were sure the water wouldn't reach that level, but we could not cross over. The water level was too high. We sought refuge at the filling station, then we realized oil suspending on the surface of the water. We felt this burning sensation on our legs. We then took the decision to cross from there to the overpass, but we could not, so we made a stop at where the carpet was sold. Next we saw fire was headed for the filling station from a house somewhere. We ran, but the fire soon reached us. It burnt my hand. I was worried my child would be burnt, so I dropped her in the water instead. Why did you take that decision? It was the fire. Look at what it did to me, an adult. I couldn't imagine what the fire could do to my child. When I lowered myself in the water, the current pulled me until it unstrapped the cloth tying my child. And I never saw my daughter again.
When you found her, where was she?
She was dead. They brought her to me. The police then sent her body to the police hospital mortuary. I am unhappy about the stories I hear. I have catered for her for the past 2 years, only for me to do this on purpose.
And yes, sir, my woman Banamatini 2 years. 2 years, 2 months, money away. No masha koleya na sensu ta na mesime to me banade actually so.
Only God can judge me, not human beings. I am pleading with the rumor mongers to stop spreading the lies. If only they were with me on that day, they would understand. I won't intentionally kill my daughter. I wish I had died in her place. People now point fingers at me that I killed my daughter.
And I mean, Shadan Sunyade, and to me banning yade, and to me banning woon crapo. I am Yadana crack, I'm a colonimushe, our den so more black. Mi peni krami nyede mi nguna kanyede enka kola ba de nyame baby ayede eye timi sromo se ensem na mo kana ebie ne ho ayede eye no kra na nyame nko ame banso na ayede ewu ntisem mo ka fa me ba ne hu wo ne entisa se na etsene na mayede ma chiromo.
What was her name?
Florence.
Where is the father?
He's around somewhere but not here.
It's been a long day without you, my friend, and I'll tell you all about it when I see you again. We've come a long way from where we began. Oh, I'll tell you all.
Now, last Wednesday's double tragedy claimed, at the last count, 152 lives, with over 100 of them believed to have died in the fire at the oil filling station, which you see behind me. The deceased were mainly commuters who were trekking through the Kwame Nkrumah Circle, virtually across the biggest transport hub. I caught up with Kelvin, one of the few who stared death in the face and yet lived to tell what happened that tragic night. Here's his chilling reconstruction from where it all happened. And for him, the nightmare started when he stepped out of a commercial vehicle into waist-high floodwater. Right, so we're here at what has now become Ghana's ground zero. This is where it all happened, the oil filling station, where the explosion and subsequent fire engulfed the whole place and caught people who were fleeing from a flood. So as you can see over here, from the account we've had, there would have been several people who were just fleeing the flood and who felt that they could take shelter at this place, especially under the shed. Not just the shed, but if you can see, this place is slightly elevated compared to the main road. So then they felt that if they were standing in the main road, the water could probably get to their knees or their waist. But if they were standing at the oil filling station, the water would probably go somewhere below their knees. And that was safer than just standing out there. And for them, that was all they were going to do. I have with me one of those people who was around and who was also trying to avoid the flood and avoid the situation where he was being swept away. It's Kelvin. Kelvin, thank you very much for doing this. I know it's difficult for you.
Very difficult. Very, very difficult.
This is where you ended up coming to take shelter?
Yeah, there.
Right there?
Yeah, right there. Yeah.
So you walked from that direction?
Towards this way.
What was the water level at the time?
The water level was around my waist. So reaching here, I realized that was the end of that rail, so I need to move towards this direction. So I was holding this one, so moved this direction.
So you're holding the rails. Rails were guiding you.
Yes, walking by it, one after the other. So it was like this. It was like this. And I came, and this is where I stood. About 30, 35 before I joined. When the water got full, when it was here, we were still standing here and we were just contemplating amongst ourselves. Believe you me, standing here, a guy was saved over there because there was a motor rider who parked his motorbike here and he saw one of the cars moved on by the water. Water carried it away and said, what is happening? So he wanted to dare. So he went to the gate just to see what is happening. At that time, the water level was beneath my knee. So he reaching there, he saw a guy that the water was carrying. So fortunately, he stretched his arms and pulled that guy and saved him from the water being carrying him away. So he brought again. The guy stood here. The guy his height was maybe around my here, this level. So he stood here. The guy didn't talk till the eventful time.
But you had hoped that the rain would subside.
Exactly. We were just telling ourselves, oh, it's subsiding. But it's still, as much as we realized that the rain was subsiding, the runoffs were becoming more. We didn't know how it was coming. So the water level was rising as the rain was subsiding. So we were here and started smelling, that was around 12. We started smelling fuel around us. We thought it was even coming from the motorbike because the motorbike was parked here. But hey, who knows? So someone just passed a comment. Maybe water has entered maybe the reservoir of the filling station, so the fuel level has risen. That is why we are smelling. Okay, that is none of our business, so we didn't talk about it so much. In about 45 to an hour's time, the only thing you could hear is a jow, fire in our local language, a ja, and that is fire. And the very moment you hear fire and you want to turn, the blast. That was when the blast came. You could hear as if it's a bomb blast. Boom! Coming to, so just imagine hearing that sound and with adrenaline in you, all of us here, standing here, wanted to move through this gate. At the same time, because you need to save your life. So we moved without seeing anything. The water level has risen, this level. What do you do?
So for you, who is tall, what's your height?
About 6'2".
So you're 6'2",
yeah.
And the water was at your neck?
This way, yes.
At what point?
Here.
This was when you were forcing to go?
To come out.
So
everybody was just pushing.
I'm sure you'll get stuck here.
You get stuck because all those people were trying to come out through this gate. Look at those numbers. All of us at the same time. What do? The whole of this place was full to the brim. Full. And this was the direction.
So the water was going this way?
This way. You see that ladder? That is what we sighted.
Oh, the scaffold?
The scaffold, the scaffold, that's what we sighted. And believe you me, that scaffold has barbed wires covering it. You will not even know. So, and between the overhead and the heap of sand, the water level was even more than what was here.
Okay, but looking at the space between this side and this side, I didn't think that. So what? You were attempting to cross to the other side?
Yes, cross.
To the scaffold?
To the scaffold. Because that is the only route you can get to the top. And reaching the scaffold, you can't climb and you don't even know that there is a barbed wire protecting it.
So where was the last point contact you had with a woman? Or when was the last time you saw a woman?
That was when we were hanging by the rails.
What was her state?
The state in which that lady was, in fact, she would have loved to follow us across the water. but she attempted trying to get down and see how she could move with us. She did this, she managed to put 1 foot on the ground, she climbed up again. And she said, no, I can't. The water level was too much for me, I can't make it. And she started shouting, God save me, God save me. Rain has led to numbers of people losing their lives. I pray for my life as well. I know I am not better than that, but you saved my life. Thank you for saving my life. Give me an opportunity once again to live.
We're grateful to Kelvin and all the other survivors for agreeing to speak to us, and we're equally thankful to the management of GCB Bank for allowing us access to the GCB Tower, which for a while provided shelter to many. We're taking a break. We'll be back with more. President John Mahama has directed that a DNA test be conducted on all unidentified bodies in last week's flood and fire disaster, as there are still a number of bodies yet to be identified by relatives. The government has also announced an end to the rescue mission and has put the death toll at 152. President Mahama was speaking at the one-week memorial service held for those who perished in the flood and fire disaster last Wednesday.
Ghana is mourning. Ghanaians are sad, and those who lost their relatives in the 3rd June disaster have still not overcome the shock that tragedy brought them. About this time last week, the over 152 were still alive. Most of them died while seeking refuge at the Kwame Nkrumah Circle Goil Fuel Station amidst the downpour that night. The devastating fuel station explosion, which killed almost everyone around, traveled to nearby houses and killed others. Flags have been flying at half-mast since Monday after government declared a 3-day national mourning. Wednesday's national memorial service was to climax the 3-day period of mourning. Ghana's 2 living former presidents, Speaker of Parliament, the Chief Justice, leading political personalities and members of the diplomatic corps joined President Mahama and Vice President Kwesi Bekwai Emisa Arthur to mark the day. It was a solemn ceremony with almost everyone present in a traditional mourning cloth. Prayers were said for the country, so such a disaster will never recur.
Deliver us from evil men who will sit in places of authority and do evil things. Deliver us from vampires who will drink the blood of the nation and leave nothing behind. Bless our nation with good leaders. And for those that are there now, we thank you that you are helping them.
Mercy, Lord. In wrath, remember mercy. Let mercy triumph over judgment. That those who have died, that their death will not be in vain, and that never again will such an event and a catastrophe ever happen.
Founder of the Fountain Gate Chapel, Reverend Istudanaba, preached a message of hope, which he says must be accompanied with action.
Ghana is in a state of mourning, but weeping does not solve problems. Positive action involves expertise. Our engineers, doctors, contractors, businessmen, and even the ordinary person in the citizenry must be able to have the necessary expertise to deal with challenges like this. Man shall not live by bread alone, but the other converse is true. Man shall not live by prayer and spiritual things alone. So, holism, those that pray, let them provide the material things. and the people that provide the material things and the political leadership and the intellectual knowledge and stuff like that should also remember that except the Lord build a house, they labor in vain that build it, and except the Lord keep the city, the watchman waketh but in vain.
President Mahama said government would do its best to avert recurrence of such disasters, cautioning Ghanaians to be extra careful, respect the environment, and end the blame game. The president reiterated government's promise to foot the medical bills of the surviving victims.
The loss that our nation has suffered is incomprehensible. 152 Ghanaian citizens. With each number, there's a name, there's a face, and there's a story. In due course, each of these names will be released to the public to ensure that these individuals will be remembered eternally. This number is still provisional, and we're hoping that we shall not find any more bodies.
President Mahama is also urging everyone to contribute a token towards making life a bit comfortable for those still on hospital beds and those who lost properties.
We're still in the process of identifying the dead. To that end, government has given authorization for DNA tests to be conducted on the bodies from the disaster that have not yet been identified. This will allow families that are unsure of the fates of their members and who are still not accounted for to be able to bring DNA samples so confirmation can be made.
A number of countries, especially in Africa, have started donating to help Ghana shoulder the burden of this disaster. Togo and Ivory Coast have made available $50,000, including drugs, while Senegal has donated $100,000.
Now, former President Rawlings and Kufuor were at the National Memorial Service and spoke to the media after the service, asking for support for survivors and prayers for victims.
We are empathizing with them. Look, I believe it was a poet who said, "There, but for the grace of God, we go." We would have gone the same way. It could have happened to anybody. So we are with them, and we pray it doesn't happen to anybody again, ever.
It's a pretty difficult one. You know, our sympathies go to them. I can only hope that we will all donate as generously as we possibly can in order to alleviate some of the difficulties they'll no doubt be going through. It's a painful thing, but let's become a little bit more responsible in future, okay? And I'd like to add my voice to all those who are appealing for funds, you know, to help them out. I can only hope that we'll all cooperate and collaborate to make sure that it becomes successful so that this kind of thing doesn't happen again.
The National Disaster Management Organization, NADMO, continues distribution of relief items for residents affected by the floods. But some residents of Panama, a suburb of Accra, fearing they were being sidelined today, raised concerns, accosting the NADMO officials whom they accused of bias.
The aggrieved residents alleged only few favored residents have been registered to receive the item, and that majority of them who really needed assistance have been ignored. According to them, the only way a resident could benefit from the distribution is through proper registration, which they are yet to do. The situation brought some confusion between NADMO officials and a section of the residents who accused NADMO of bias.
We've been waiting since morning to get some of the donation, but officials are not attending to us. We don't even know what to do now because we have nothing left in our homes. The officials are being biased. Some people who were not affected by floods are getting reliefs. Those of us who are really in need have not even been registered, so we can't get anything. They should have told us they can't help us.
We have been registered, but we have still not received any relief item. The NADMO officials keep telling us to wait, but the funds have also run out.
The NADMO coordinator for Owusu Central says that is not the case.
We are dealing with human beings, and during our house-to-house registration, you cannot be able to cover everybody. So those that we covered is the list that we have put together and we were using. So eventually, you see other people that were not yet captured rush to this place, and they make things very difficult.
Today, the things that you brought are not enough to reach out to all the rest.
That is a fact, because the figure that we recorded is about 1,280 something. You understand, and you can see the things that we delivered.
Meanwhile, Deputy Minister of Transport Joyce Muktari says arrangements have been made to bring in more relief items for onward distribution.
In regards to the mattresses, what I'm told by the NADMO officials is that they would need to get additional mattresses, and I believe that they are making efforts to get additional mattresses. But with all the other items, we still have availability to serve as many people as possible. I believe that there's still blankets available, there's food items available. The only thing that looks to be getting a bit low on demand is the mattresses, and I'm hopeful that we'll be able to get some more to continue with the service.
In the midst of this confusion to get more relief items, the gutters remain choked. If the rains should set in today, residents here are likely to suffer the same fate. For Joy News, Matilda Apomaga, Accra.
Now, Joy News checks have revealed that the public hospitals taking care of survivors of the flood and fire disasters are yet to receive funds allocated for the treatment of victims. President Mahama had directed the release of 50 million cedis to support flood victims, but the police, Ridge and 37 military hospitals are yet to receive any of that money. DCOP David Ampabening is Director General of Police Public Affairs.
This is an emergency situation. Nobody expected it. So certainly there will be strain on the logistics because it's not something that we plan for. But fortunately, the hospital has received a word from NADMO that they should try and treat everybody. And after that, they will submit the bill to them. Maybe they will meet them half, maybe they will pay whole. But I know that everybody who has come to the police hospital has been treated without them paying anything.
You're watching Joy News Prime. We're taking a break. When we come back, we bring you business news. Do stay tuned.
Business news.
Time now to talk business. My name is Eton Amse. Implementation of the 800% hike in third-party motor insurance premiums suspended effective tomorrow. This decision was reached after a meeting between the motor insurance CEOs and the finance minister, said Tepe, to allow for more consultation and sensitization. 1st July is, however, the next target date for implementation of this policy. My colleague on the business desk, Kuku Aban, has been following the story and joins me in the studio. Hello, Kuku.
Hi, Eto.
What else can you gather? What did you gather after the meeting?
Well, after a marathon meeting, the decision was taken that the implementation of the 800% hike in the policy, that's the motor insurance for third-party claimants, be suspended until broader consultations and enough sensitization has been done before they can think about even implementing it. That's why the 1st July date is kind of earmarked as a target date.
As a target date.
So by then, if they've been able to do enough consultation, then it can be implemented at the time.
But I doubt we can do enough consultation for the 1st July date. But anyways, yesterday some people were charged. Some people went to renew their insurance. What happens to them?
With that, they're saying if by the end of all the issues, by the time they try to address all the issues, they are successful in that, then they can give them a refund. Now they have just 19 days to engage in all the consultations before we get to that 1st July date. So those who've already paid, if all the issues are ironed out, then they can have a refund.
All right, and I hope they refund those monies to them. Many thanks, Kuku. And the private sector is asking government not to interfere in businesses and allow the sector to effectively run the economy for them. Government must focus on regulating and monitoring the sector to play its role in economic development. At the end of the Ghana Economic Forum, businesses agreed on the need to take up infrastructural projects and demand accountability from policymakers to create the enabling environment for them to operate.
Two-day discussion insisted on the need for the public-private partnership program to be revived, while a political consensus is created for the private sector participation in infrastructural projects.
What we insist is a laudable opportunity to finance heretofore projects that normally could have been provided by public sector. Private sector would do pre-finance and then get its money out of it. But it got to be done in a way where the local, the domestic private sector is a partner, not where everything is given to the foreign. You see all these business opportunities that are being created. Say, oh, they're too big. 5 billion, 3 billion. Ghanaians don't have that. No project had ever been done in one day. It's stretched out over a long period of time. So give 40% to the local private sector. Over the long haul, we should be able to provide the funding, the technical skills.
The private sector is the game changer. See what the private sector has done in medicine, hospitals. See what the private sector has done in transport. Look at the airlines. See what the private sector has done in telecoms. See what the private sector has done in finance. The government should wash itself of business. The government has no business being in business. The government should go about making we should go about making the rules and regulations and allow private people to operate. Yeah, when I talk about private sector, essentially what I'm trying to say is that the people that operate the businesses must feel it in their pocket if they do well, and they must also feel it in their pocket if they don't do well.
Others called for the empowerment of the media to probe leadership and make them accountable as the public's mouthpiece.
Building the capacity of the media is about developing their skills and ensuring that they have the expertise to be able to analyze, to review, and to challenge experts, to challenge policymakers, to challenge politicians, and broadly challenge those who make key decisions.
Meanwhile, Minister of State Rashid Pelpo has tasked the private sector to equip themselves to take up long-term infrastructural projects. The minister, who is in charge of private-public partnerships at the presidency, tells Joy Business government is forced to give out big projects to foreign investors as local players lack the needed capacity to undertake such ventures. He was responding to calls by businesses for government to allow them run projects for development.
You have a certain inevitable perception about an external private sector when you come to some key PPPs that we are doing. They are big projects, and we don't have the resource in this country. So mostly you have local external private sector coming into like you want to expand the harbour. We are looking at over $1 billion. You want to link it with the motorway and expand the motorway and do overheads. You are looking at over $1 billion to do so. So I was speaking at a broad range in which you can have a local partner participating with a private sector who is external to invest in these areas, and the local partner would not need to expatriate profits, but because there's an input from the external private sector, I should be able to explain how they can also come in and go out.
That's it for business. My name is Eton Amse. Many thanks for your time.
Business News was...
Hohoi has been chosen as a focal point for an Ebola vaccine trial that will be carried out by the University of Health and Allied Sciences School of Public Health. However, residents in Hohoi are calling on government to call off the trial, stating the environment stands at risk since Ebola is a contagious disease. Some residents who spoke to journalists expressed their displeasure at authorities questioning why Hohoi was chosen.
Hohoi has been chosen as the focal point for an Ebola vaccine trial that will be carried out by the University of Health and Allied Sciences. However, residents in Hohoi are calling on government to call off the trial, stating their environment stands at risk since Ebola is a contagious disease. Some residents who spoke to Joy News expressed their displeasure at authorities, questioning why Hohoi was chosen.
What happens if it is tried on us and we die? The Ebola vaccine trial should be done elsewhere.
Hohoi residents say they fear the risks they will be exposed to since the Ebola disease is deadly. They say no amount of money can compensate such a risky venture. A class 4 pupil, Joshua Numenya, is scared people might die out of the Ebola vaccine trial and was happy the vaccine trial has been suspended by the health ministry.
It might be they could not get a cure. So, like, if it enters one person, it can spread. I don't like it.
Now, the Ministry of Health, government for that matter, says that now they've suspended it. Are you happy about that?
Yes.
Some media practitioners who also oppose the vaccine trial spoke to Joy News.
I don't think it's something bad, but the choice of venue, I'm not still clear about it. The choice of venue being Hohoi here, I'm not still clear about it. Because we even have Kwame Nkrumah University of Science and Technology, so why not there?
Nonetheless, some residents lamented that they are not well educated on the Ebola vaccine trial and are calling on authorities to give them detailed information on the exercise. However, some 21 people have been reported to have registered for the Ebola vaccine trial already. Traditional authorities in the area say they will not comment on the issue because they have little knowledge about the exercise. Kwabena Asare for Joy News.
Meanwhile, the Minister of Health has courted the anger of Parliament for daring to begin clinical trials for the deadly Ebola virus without notifying the people's representatives. The angry MPs unanimously demanded the cessation of the trials, with the minister hauled before Parliament to explain why he took such a bold decision without informing Parliament. The ministry was set to begin the trials in the Owusu region, having already located volunteers, some of whom were said to have been promised 200 cedis and a mobile phone each as an incentive to participate in the trials. But their action by the minister has not only provoked fear and panic in the region, as you heard some of the residents say, but on the floor of Parliament Wednesday, the MPs took turns to condemn the clinical trials. Up next, we bring you sports.
Sports now, and after months of speculation on his future, Andre Ayew has joined English Premier League side Swansea City on a 4-year deal. A 25-year-old was out of contract at Marseille, and he will now join Swansea, who have been looking to strengthen their forward options since Wilfred Bony was sold to Manchester City in January. Andre is happy and is looking forward to working with Gary Monk in Jersey, and for him, he looks to have a positive impact at the Liberty Stadium. From a batting star, you want to say, to one who is about leaving the scene, and as part of the preparations toward his testimonial game to be played on 27th of June at the Accra Sports Stadium, ex-Black Stars captain Stephen Appiah paid a courtesy call on National Chief Imam Sheikh Nuhu Osman Shaributu to officially invite him to his testimonial. Tornado Appiah asked the tall list of special guests, which include former presidents of Ghana, Jerry John Rawlings and John Ajakum Kufuor, as well as Bishop Sam Korankye Ankara, for his final football match on June 27. Appiah expressed his gratitude after the National Chief Imam's assessment.
It's a privilege to be here this afternoon in his Eminence house. I think that I remember when I used to play for the national team, when I was captain of the team, those days, Sule Mutari, maybe Fridays, when we have crucial matches, Sule Mutari will call the house, they will pray with us on the phone and all that. So being here today, I'm honored anyway, because I've been admiring His Eminence from afar for the good work that he's doing for this country, and I think that he's one of the leaders in this country. I've been watching him on TV. When you go to places, you will see the respect and love that people shows to him. I mean, if he sounds like Stephen Appiah doing something without coming here to inform him, it's not going to be fair. So we came here this afternoon. The blessing is unbelievable.
Now, the bidding process of the 2026 World Cup has been postponed amid allegations around the 2018 and 2022 tournaments. The vote to decide who will host the 2026 World Cup is due to take place in Kuala Lumpur in May 2017. The United States are front runners to stage the tournament, but Canada, Mexico and Colombia are also thought to be interested. FIFA Secretary General Jerome Valcke says it's irrational to begin the process in the current climate.